Sarah's heart raced as she approached the dark-skinned woman, acutely aware of the disturbing whispers echoing through the bar. Why was everyone acting so strangely? What secret lay behind the presence of this mysterious customer? When Sarah accepted the woman's order with a warm smile, she had no idea that this simple act of kindness would soon turn her entire world upside down. The events that followed forced the entire town to question everything they thought they knew about prejudice, hospitality, and the power of one true interaction. Sarah tied her apron with practiced ease, the familiar routine a comfort as she prepared for another shift at the bar. The air hummed with the usual chatter of regulars, clinking glasses, and the sizzle of burgers on the grill. She breathed in the scent of beer and fried food, a smile playing on her lips as she greeted her coworkers. The evening settled into its familiar rhythm. Sarah weaved between tables, refilling drinks and taking orders with a warmth that had become her trademark. Laughter erupted from a corner booth where a group of friends celebrated a birthday. At the bar, two older men debated the latest town gossip, their voices a low rumble beneath the classic rock playing overhead. Suddenly, the door swung open, bringing with it a gust of cool air and a hush that fell over the room like a heavy blanket. Sarah looked up, her tray poised mid-air, as a striking woman stepped inside. The newcomer's dark skin gleamed in the low light, her posture radiating confidence as she surveyed the room with interest. The woman's entrance seemed to suck the air from the space. Conversation stuttered and died. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Sarah felt the shift in energy like a physical force, pressing against her skin. She watched as patrons' gazes darted to the woman, then away just as quickly. A dance of curiosity and discomfort. Whispers began to ripple through the bar, a current of unease. Who is she? What's she doing here? The words weren't meant to carry, but in the sudden stillness, they seemed to echo. Sarah saw the woman's shoulders tense slightly, though her expression remained neutral. Sarah glanced at her coworkers, expecting one of them to approach the new customer. Instead, she found them suddenly engrossed in wiping already clean glasses or studying the floor with intense fascination. The bartender, usually quick with a greeting, seemed to have developed a sudden, pressing need to reorganize the liquor bottles. The silence stretched, becoming a living thing that filled the room. Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach as she realized no one was going to move. She saw the flicker of uncertainty pass over the woman's face, quickly masked but unmistakable. In that moment, Sarah made a decision. She set down her tray, smoothed her apron, and took a deep breath. With deliberate steps, she crossed the room, her smile genuine as she approached the woman standing alone. "Welcome," Sarah said warmly, meeting the woman's eyes. "Can I show you to a table?" The woman's posture relaxed slightly, relief and gratitude mingling in her expression. As Sarah led her to a booth, she felt the weight of every gaze in the bar upon them. The whispers continued, but she tuned them out, focusing instead on making sure their new guest felt truly welcome. Little did Sarah know, this simple choice to extend kindness in the face of others' reluctance would set off a chain of events that would ripple far beyond the walls of this small-town bar. As she handed the woman a menu, Sarah couldn't have imagined how this ordinary Tuesday evening would become the catalyst for extraordinary change in her life and the lives of everyone around her. Sometimes, the most profound changes begin with the smallest gestures. As Sarah approached the woman's table, she made a choice that would alter the course of not just her own life, but the entire town's. What was it about this interaction that held such transformative power? Sarah's warm smile seemed to cut through the tension like a ray of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Hi there. I'm Sarah," she said, her voice carrying a genuine warmth that stood in stark contrast to the cold silence of her coworkers. "Can I get you started with a drink while you look over the menu?" The woman's shoulders, which had been tight with tension, relaxed slightly. Her guarded expression softened, though wariness still lingered in her eyes. "Just water for now, please," she replied, her voice low but steady. As Sarah jotted down the order, she noticed the woman's fingers drumming nervously on the table. Acting on instinct, Sarah's smile widened. "First time in town?" she asked, her tone light and conversational. The woman hesitated, then nodded. Is it that obvious? A hint of a smile played at the corners of her mouth. Sarah laughed softly. Well, we don't get too many new faces around here. I hope you're enjoying your visit so far. She paused, then added sincerely, and I hope our little bar can make you feel welcome. Something in Sarah's words seemed to resonate with the woman. Her posture relaxed further, and she met Sarah's gaze directly for the first time. Thank you, she said, her voice warmer now. That means more than you know. As Sarah turned to fetch the water, she could feel the weight of stares from her coworkers and the other patrons. Some looked puzzled, others disapproving. But Sarah held her head high, determined to treat their guest with the kindness and respect she deserved. When she returned with the water, Sarah found the woman studying the menu intently. Our burgers are pretty famous around here, Sarah offered. But if you're in the mood for something lighter, the grilled chicken salad is my personal favorite. The woman looked up, a genuine smile now gracing her features. The salad sounds perfect, actually. I've been on the road all day, and something fresh would hit the spot. As Sarah took down the order, she couldn't help but notice the camera bag tucked beside the woman. Curiosity sparked within her. Are you a photographer? She asked. The woman's eyes lit up. Yes, actually. I'm traveling across the country, documenting, well, all sorts of things. She hesitated, as if unsure how much to reveal. Sarah sensed there was more to the story, but she didn't push. Instead, she said, that sounds fascinating. I've always wanted to travel more, see new places. Maybe you could tell me about some of your favorite spots while I get your order ready? The woman's smile widened, genuine warmth replacing the last traces of guardedness. I'd like that, she said softly. As Sarah headed to the kitchen, she felt a spark of excitement. There was something special about this woman, a story waiting to be told. Little did Sarah know that her simple act of kindness was about to set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. The whispers around the bar had shifted now. Curiosity was beginning to replace suspicion. As their conversation deepened over the course of the meal, neither Sarah or her guest could have predicted what would happen next, or how this chance encounter would ripple out to touch countless lives. The camera bag held more than just equipment, it contained a story that would change everything. As Sarah's curiosity grew, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the precipice of something extraordinary. What revelation awaited, poised to shatter the quiet calm of this provincial town? Sarah leaned in, her voice low and friendly. So, tell me more about your travels. What brings you to our little corner of the world? Her eyes sparkled with genuine interest, a stark contrast to the wary glances still being cast their way. The woman's fingers tightened around her water glass, her gaze flickering between Sarah and the other patrons. For a moment, she seemed to wrestle with an internal debate, weighing the risks and rewards of honesty. Sarah watched as emotions played across her face, hesitation, wariness, and then a flicker of something that looked almost like hope. Well, the woman began, her voice barely above a whisper, I'm on a bit of a mission, I suppose you could say. She paused, gauging Sarah's reaction. Seeing only open curiosity, she continued, I'm traveling across the country, documenting the experiences of people like me in small towns like this. Sarah's brow furrowed slightly. People like you? She asked gently, careful not to push too hard. The woman took a deep breath, her shoulders squaring as if bracing for impact. People of color, she said, her voice gaining strength. I'm a blogger, you see. I write about diversity, inclusion, and the realities of navigating spaces where we're often unwelcome. Sarah's eyes widened as the pieces began to fall into place. The camera bag, the careful observations, the way the woman had scanned the room upon entering, it all made sense now. But there was still something more, a piece of the puzzle just out of reach. A blogger? Sarah repeated, her mind racing. That sounds fascinating. Do you have many followers? A wry smile tugged at the corner of the woman's mouth. You could say that, she replied, a hint of pride creeping into her voice. My last post reached over 1 million people. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat as the full weight of the revelation hit her. This wasn't just any blogger, this was someone with real influence, someone whose words could reach far beyond the walls of this small-town bar. 1 million. Sarah whispered, awe and a touch of fear mingling in her voice. She glanced around the bar, suddenly acutely aware of how the earlier treatment of this woman might be perceived by such a vast audience. The woman leaned in, her voice low and urgent. I don't usually reveal who I am, she confessed. But there's something different about you, Sarah. The way you approached me, the kindness in your eyes, it stood out in a way I couldn't ignore. Sarah felt a rush of emotions, pride, humility, and a growing sense of responsibility. She realized that her simple act of decency had unknowingly put her at the center of a story that could have far-reaching consequences. I'm glad I could make you feel welcome, Sarah said softly, her voice thick with emotion. Everyone deserves that, no matter who they are or where they come from. The woman's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. That's exactly the kind of story I want to tell, she said. The small acts of kindness that can change everything. With her secret out, the atmosphere in the bar shifted once again. The air seemed to crackle with potential energy, as if the entire room could feel that something momentous was unfolding. Sarah's mind raced with the implications of what had just been revealed, and the knowledge that her actions, for better or worse, were about to be thrust into the spotlight. In the span of a few minutes, the entire atmosphere of the bar had shifted. Whispers raced from table to table, carrying a story of kindness and its unexpected consequences. Little did Sarah know, her simple act of decency was about to spark a revolution that would reach far beyond the walls of this small-town establishment. As the truth about the blogger's identity spread, a palpable change swept through the room. Patrons who had earlier averted their gaze now stole curious glances at the woman's table. Some leaned in close to their companions, urgently discussing the revelation in hushed tones. Others fidgeted uncomfortably in their seats, their faces a canvas of conflicting emotions. Sarah's co-workers, once so eager to avoid the newcomer, now stood frozen in place. The bartender's hands trembled slightly as he polished the same glass over and over, his eyes darting between Sarah and the blogger. A waitress who had earlier ducked into the kitchen to avoid serving the table now hovered nearby, her cheeks flushed with shame. The blogger observed it all with a keen eye, her fingers lightly tracing the edge of her camera. She noted the subtle shifts in body language, the way conversations faltered and restarted, the looks of regret that flashed across faces. Her gaze lingered on Sarah, who continued to work with the same warmth and efficiency she had shown from the start. As the minutes ticked by, the initial shock began to give way to a different kind of energy. Some patrons straightened in their seats, their expressions softening. A few even offered hesitant smiles in the blogger's direction. It was as if Sarah's kindness had awakened something in them, a reminder of their own capacity for compassion. The blogger's mind raced with possibilities. She had come to this town expecting to document yet another story of small-minded prejudice. Instead, she had stumbled upon something far more powerful, a beacon of hope in the form of a young waitress who chose kindness over conformity. Her fingers hovered over her phone as she considered her next move. How could she best use her platform to share this story? She knew her words had the power to shape perceptions, to challenge assumptions, to inspire change. But she also recognized the delicate nature of the moment. One wrong word could shatter the fragile transformation taking place before her eyes. In the end, the decision came easily. With careful deliberation, she began to type, capturing the essence of her encounter with Sarah. She described the initial coldness, the whispers, the averted gazes. But more importantly, she painted a vivid picture of Sarah's warmth, her genuine smile, her effortless kindness that knew no boundaries. As the blogger crafted her post, she felt a sense of purpose unlike any she had experienced before. This wasn't just another story of prejudice overcome, it was a testament to the power of one person's choice to be kind in the face of adversity. Sarah, oblivious to the social media storm about to break, continued her rounds. She refilled drinks, cleared tables, and chatted with regulars, unaware that her actions were being immortalized in a post that would soon reach millions. As she worked, the blogger watched her with a mixture of admiration and anticipation, knowing that Sarah's life was about to change in ways she couldn't possibly imagine. The blogger hit post with a sense of finality, sending Sarah's story out into the world. As she set her phone down, she caught Sarah's eye and smiled, a silent thank you for restoring her faith in humanity. Sarah returned the smile, unaware that at that very moment, her simple act of kindness was beginning to ripple outward, touching hearts and minds far beyond the borders of their small town. As Sarah's shift wound down, an unfamiliar buzz emanated from her apron pocket. She furrowed her brow, puzzled by the sudden flurry of activity on her usually quiet phone. With a quick glance around the now emptying bar, she pulled out her device and gasped. Notifications flooded her screen, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, every app icon was adorned with an alarming number of red dots. Sarah's hands trembled as she unlocked her phone, her mind racing to make sense of this digital deluge. As she scrolled through the sea of notifications, a pattern emerged. Comment after comment praised her kindness, her courage, her humanity. Strangers from across the country, across the world, were reaching out to express their admiration. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the realization dawned: she had gone viral. With shaking fingers, she navigated to the source of this whirlwind. There, at the top of her feed, was a post from the blogger she had served earlier. The woman's words painted a vivid picture of their encounter, highlighting Sarah's warmth in the face of others' cold indifference. In a world often darkened by prejudice, the post read, "I encountered a beacon of hope. A young waitress named Sarah chose kindness when others chose fear. Her simple act of human decency reminded me why I started this journey. She is proof that one person can make a difference, that small acts of compassion can change the world." The post had already garnered millions of likes and shares. Sarah's eyes widened as she scrolled through the comments, each one more effusive than the last. People shared their own stories of discrimination, of small kindnesses that had made all the difference. Sarah's act had struck a chord, sparking a conversation about the power of everyday compassion. As the reality of her sudden internet fame sank in, Sarah's phone buzzed with incoming calls and messages from friends and family. Her best friend's voice crackled with excitement: "Sarah, you're everywhere. I can't believe it." Her mother's text was a jumble of proud exclamation points and heart emojis. Sarah sank onto a nearby bar stool, her mind reeling. How would this change her life? Would she be recognized on the street? Would strangers expect her to live up to this idealized version of herself? A mix of excitement and anxiety churned in her stomach as she considered the implications of her newfound visibility, yet amid the whirlwind of attention, something else began to take shape. Job offers trickled in, everything from social media management to motivational speaking. Local businesses reached out, eager to associate themselves with her positive image. The mayor's office even called, inviting her to speak at an upcoming town hall on community relations. As Sarah scrolled through these unexpected opportunities, a warm sense of purpose began to blossom within her. She had always dreamed of making a difference, of leaving her mark on the world. Now, it seemed, she had been given a platform to do just that. Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself against the tide of change sweeping through her life. She knew that this was only the beginning, that the true impact of her interaction with the blogger was yet to fully unfold. With a mixture of trepidation and determination, Sarah squared her shoulders, ready to embrace whatever came next. But as she prepared to step into this new chapter, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the most profound changes were still to come, changes that would ripple out far beyond her own life, touching hearts and minds in ways she could scarcely imagine. Sarah's world had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. As she sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone in disbelief, the notifications continued to pour in. Her inbox was overflowing with messages from strangers, each one expressing admiration for her simple act of kindness. It was overwhelming, to say the least. With trembling fingers, Sarah began to sort through the sea of messages. There were heartfelt thank yous from people who had experienced discrimination firsthand, telling her how her story had given them hope. Local businesses reached out, offering her free meals and services as a token of appreciation. Even a few celebrities had shared her story, amplifying it to millions more, but it was the job offers that truly made Sarah's head spin. Marketing firms wanted her to be the face of their diversity campaigns. Non-profit organizations offered her positions in community outreach. There was even an invitation to speak at a TEDx event about the power of everyday kindness. Sarah's emotions swirled like a storm. Pride in knowing her actions had touched so many lives. Excitement at the possibilities suddenly laid out before her. But also fear of the unknown, fear of not living up to the expectations now placed upon her. She had never sought the spotlight, and now it was shining on her with blinding intensity. As she scrolled through the offers, one email caught her eye. It was from a national restaurant chain, known for its commitment to inclusivity and social responsibility. They were offering her a position as a diversity and inclusion coordinator, working to implement training programs and policies across their locations nationwide. Sarah's heart raced as she read the details. The salary was more than she had ever dreamed of making. The opportunity to make a real, lasting impact on a large scale was tantalizing. But it would mean leaving behind everything she knew, her small town, her familiar routines, the comfort of anonymity. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath to center herself. The weight of the decision pressed down on her. Should she take this leap into the unknown? Was she ready for such a drastic change? Or should she stay in the safety of her current life, content with knowing she had made a difference in one moment? As the sun began to set outside her window, casting long shadows across her kitchen, Sarah made her decision. She opened her eyes, a new resolve settling over her. With steady hands, she began to type her response to the restaurant chain. "Thank you for this incredible opportunity," she wrote. "I would be honored to join your team and work towards creating a more inclusive world, one interaction at a time." As she hit send, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and nervousness course through her. She knew her life would never be the same, but she was ready to embrace the change. This was her chance to turn one small act of kindness into a lifetime of meaningful work. Sarah stood up, stretching as she looked out at the darkening sky. As she embraced these new possibilities, she couldn't help but wonder how far the ripples of her actions would spread. Little did she know, the impact of her choice was just beginning to unfold, reaching far beyond the borders of her small town and touching lives she could never have imagined. Back at the bar where it all began, a transformation was underway. The air crackled with a newfound energy as Sarah pushed open the door, her heart racing with anticipation. The once familiar space now felt electric, charged with possibility. Gone were the suspicious glances and hushed whispers that had greeted the blogger months ago. In their place, a warm buzz of conversation filled the room. Sarah's eyes widened as she took in the scene. The walls, once adorned with faded sports memorabilia, now showcased a colorful tapestry of photos and stories from patrons of all backgrounds. At the bar, a group of regulars huddled around a newcomer, hanging on his every word as he described life in his home country. Their faces shone with genuine curiosity, a far cry from the closed-off expressions Sarah had grown accustomed to seeing. As Sarah made her way to the back, she overheard snippets of conversation that made her heart swell. "Did you hear about old Mr. Johnson?" one waitress whispered excitedly. "He's organizing a cultural food festival next month. Says he was inspired by Sarah's story to bring the community together." Not everyone welcomed the changes with open arms, however. In a corner booth, Sarah spotted a group of older men, their faces etched with frowns as they surveyed the transformed bar. "It's not the same anymore," one grumbled, his voice carrying a hint of bitterness. "All this talk of inclusion and diversity. What was wrong with the way things were?" His companion shook his head, a contemplative look on his face. Change isn't easy, Frank. But maybe it's necessary. Did you see how Sarah's kindness put our town on the map? People are coming from all over to see what we're about now. The tension in their conversation mirrored the larger struggle playing out in the town. Sarah had heard whispers of heated debates at town hall meetings, of lifelong friendships strained by differing views on the path forward. Yet for every voice of resistance, there seemed to be two more championing the new direction. As Sarah tied on her apron, her manager approached with a warm smile. "Sarah, I've got a surprise for you," he said, his eyes twinkling. "Remember that idea you had about hosting community dinners? Well, the owner loved it. We're starting next week, and we want you to lead the initiative." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was more than she could have hoped for, a chance to build on the momentum, to create a space where people could come together and truly see each other. As the night wore on, Sarah found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. She poured drinks, swapped stories, and bridged conversations between strangers who might never have spoken before. With each interaction, she felt the pulse of change growing stronger, a new sense of possibility taking root in the very foundations of the bar. Yet even as she reveled in the progress, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The story of her kindness had sparked a flame, but it would take continued effort to keep it burning bright. As she wiped down the bar at closing time, her mind raced with ideas for the future. Little did Sarah know, her journey was far from over. The ripples of her actions were about to reach even further, touching lives and challenging perspectives in ways she could never have imagined. The true test of her town's transformation was yet to come, and Sarah would find herself at the heart of it all once again. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as a familiar silhouette darkened the bar's doorway. The blogger who had changed everything was back, but this time, she carried a secret that would catapult Sarah's life in an entirely new direction. What news could be so monumental that it would eclipse even the incredible changes of the past few months? As the blogger stepped into the warm glow of the bar, Sarah's face lit up with recognition. Months had passed since their fateful encounter, but the connection between them remained strong. Sarah rushed forward, arms outstretched, enveloping her friend in a tight embrace. "I can't believe you're here," Sarah exclaimed, her voice thick with emotion. She pulled back, studying the blogger's face. There was a new light in her eyes, a sense of purpose that hadn't been there before. The blogger smiled, her gaze sweeping across the transformed bar. "Look at this place," she marveled. "It's like a different world." Her eyes settled back on Sarah, filled with admiration. "And it's all because of you." Sarah felt a blush creep up her cheeks. "I just did what anyone should do," she mumbled, still uncomfortable with the praise that had become a constant in her life. The blogger shook her head, her expression serious. "No, Sarah. What you did was extraordinary. And that's why I'm here." She took a deep breath, as if steeling herself for what came next. "I have a proposition for you." Sarah's pulse quickened. She led the blogger to a quiet corner booth, curiosity burning in her chest. As they settled into their seats, the blogger leaned forward, her voice low and intense. "Your story has touched millions, Sarah. It sparked conversations about kindness and inclusion across the country. But I think we can do more."